Another trade recap. I took one trade today. It was a long on NQ and it was a win. So let's get into that right quick. So going into this day, I was initially leaning more bearish than bullish. As you can see, a bearish bias is now playing out. But at market open, basically, I was bearish and I wanted to see a move lower on NQ. Now let me explain why that is by going to pre-market. So pre-market, I see that NQ has just recently tapped this daily fair value gap right here. And if I go to the daily time frame, as you can see, from this massive displacement leg lower that we had last Friday, NQ has, we've barely tapped it, but we have tapped the daily. And at the time of market opening, ES had not. So I can't go back on both charts, but ES at market open was right here. So ES had not yet tapped this high, which means that there is a bearish SMT at this internal high. Because mind you, this high is the daily fair value gap, right? So because liquidity, fair value gaps are liquidity on a smaller time frame. So the daily fair value gap is this high on ES. So at the moment, at market open, we had a bearish SMT. Seriously, it's just going to load or not. So we had a bearish SMT at this high at market open. So I recognize that, and then I'm looking to see. I initially, like I said, I was initially bearish. The truth is, initially, I wasn't really even a fan of anything because I had pretty much recognized it since like 8 p.m. We had already expanded. I think it was 450 points. No, five. All right, no, that's 500 now. So yeah, at the time of market opening, yeah, like 450 points that we had expanded in the overnight. So I was like, okay, there's probably not going to be any opportunity. But then I zoom in, I see the SMT at the daily fair value gap, and I see NQ at market open. We start to trade lower, and we actually end up inversing this 5 minutes. So I recognize this immediately. I recognize this internal sell model with this sell side level here. And the reason that I have this marked out as opposed to any of these other random lows is because this is actually a 1 hour intermediate low. So if you go to the 1 hour time frame, as you can see, this is a low that is resting inside of this 1 hour imbalance. So I liked this. This caught my eye as a nice potential sell side draw on NQ. And then also I liked, this is being so laggy right now, but I liked that we had all of this low resistance sell side leading up to this. But basically my conditions were that if I want to potentially take a short towards sell side on NQ, then I need to see this 5 minute for value gap get ran through. So we end up running through this within 5 minutes of market opening, right? So the 5 minute market open candle here ends up closing down here. And obviously at this point, I'm like, okay, I definitely can't take a short right now because we're too far. Like this would be the 5 minute inverse. So technically the model is you could just slap a short here, but obviously I don't like this fill. So I'm waiting to see a potential rebalance to the 5 minute inverse. And then we also had a 2 minute bearish for value gap right here. If I zoom in, as you can see, we have this 2 minute bearish. So basically I was waiting for a rebalance on NQ to look to potentially take a short. Now this is the first candle we get. And this right here, I'm already like, okay, what the heck? If we're going to be bearish, this is not the type of price action that I want to see, right? Because if we're going to sell, do you really want to see the market immediately recover with a 76 point candle just to rebalance to this price? Like no, this looks like displacement to me. And obviously, any 30-second for value gap down here would have been completely inverted. So at this point in time, I'm like, okay, well, this does not look like we're just simply rebalancing up this price leg to then get a short. This is looking bullish to me. So then I take a closer look at ES, and I already recognize this SMT here. But at this point in time, look where ES is. ES has just barely sold off, and we're continuing to trade higher right here. So this was the candle on ES, and I was like, okay, it does not look like ES wants to be bearish to me. Like keep in mind, if I'm going to take a short on NQ, I have to make sure that ES is correlating, right? If ES is showing no signs of wanting to be bearish and having no sort of, displacement through any sort of bearish imbalances, then I can't really validate taking a short on NQ. So when I see ES just start to displace higher, it's at this point in time that I kind of switch my bias, and I'm now recognizing that this is an internal bullish SMT. NQ is starting to displace higher, and ES is very obviously going for this high, which is also the daily for value gap. And yes, gosh, we're dumping. That's crazy. Yes, I realize that. I do realize that this was a bearish SMT at market open because remember NQ had already tapped this. However, I'm not going to let just a little bit of an SMT negate an obvious bias to me because, like I said, when I see ES just market opens here, we show no sign of wanting to go lower, and we just immediately start to displace higher. Because keep in mind, this was the 5 minute candle on NQ right here. NQ's candle, first 5 minutes market open candle closes all the way down here, while ES closes higher. Like ES is actively displacing higher while NQ is selling off. And what do I see? I see that ES is heading towards the buy side that has not yet been tapped. And then I also see that ES is on the 1 minute showing no sign of wanting to reverse. So at this point in time, I pretty much switched my bias. And I was like, okay, it's obvious to me that ES is going towards the daily for value gap. So I can't take a short on NQ yet. And I would like to just see NQ get a little bit of a continuation higher. Like, I'm confident in a long on NQ until ES fills the daily fair value gap. Basically, was my thought process. So, I can't even think right now. I literally did not sleep, and I'm so tired right now. But can't really get my thoughts out. But so this placement candle here on NQ obviously makes me think we're not bearish, and then I'm looking at the 2 minute here to potentially get ran through. So I'm kind of not really caring about this 5 minute inverse at this point, and I'm now looking at this 2 minute to potentially get ran through on NQ, and we end up doing that in a second. So as you can see, 2 minute candle closes above this, and we get the inverse for value gap. And at this point in time, obviously NQ or ES was like even closer. So look where the cursors line up. ES was all the way right here. So it's dead obvious to me at this point that ES wants buy side liquidity. So I am now fully bullish on NQ, and I'm just waiting for a rebalance to potentially take an entry. So we end up opening up this 1 minute for value gap here on NQ, and I look to we had like an initial little reaction. I'll get a top step to kind of show. Obviously, you can see the trade I ended up taking, but where was it? This was the initial rebalance right here on NQ. So this was when we first tapped the 1 minute. And then on the 15 second, we had like a little bit of a reaction higher, like we started to get this little move. But basically, I don't like these straight down, straight up V-shaped recoveries. I was wanting to see internal manipulation on, like sweep out this low, come deeper into this price leg, potentially come to OTE, and then look to see a move higher. So I did not just immediately slap the long here. I waited until we got more of a rebalance. And then for a second, it looked like we might just run straight through this because the market was starting to really dump. But then we ended up holding this 30 second here. I guess this is a 1 minute too. No, this is the 30 second that I have marked. Yeah, I'm literally tweaking this morning, dude. So we end up holding this 30 second here, bullish, and this is exactly what I'm wanting to see for a long. Because mind you, what is this right here? This is a beautiful internal market maker buy model right now, right? And what I'm noticing is, yes, I was originally bearish biased on NQ, wanting to see this 1 hour intermediate low, but when I see this huge like rebalance up this price leg, it's obvious to me that we are not wanting to hold the 5 minute bearish. And then the bigger thing, the thing that's even more important than that, this whole time was ES, because ES was clearly showing me that it had no sign of wanting to move lower and was heading towards buy side. So I was confident holding any long on NQ until ES reached this high. Because once we reach this high, obviously I recognize there's no point in holding a long because the market's probably going to sell. And as you can see, that's kind of what happened. We tapped the daily for value gap, and both assets have just completely dumped since then. But this is where end up taking my entry right here. I end up getting like an absolutely sinister fill initially. Like this is where I got my fill, and I took like 10 cons, as you can see on these execution marks. I took like one mini on this, and I was like pretty much at my max drawdown at this point because it was stupid. So I took my entry itself off of this 15 second inverse. So if I kind of drag this over, as you can see, I like that we're holding the 30 second. We're in OTE of the price leg. NQ starts to bottom out, and then this is the reaction we get. We close this very bullish candle right here on ES, and I end up taking this or on NQ, and I end up taking this 15 second IFVG. Now my fill, like this candle closed right here, and this candle that opens next immediately went all the way up here, and then sold back down these 10 points within like literally less than 1 second. So I clicked buy right here, but I didn't get filled till right here, which is where this drawing tool shows. So yeah, my fill was literally terrible. And at this point in time, when like I said, I entered the long right here, and then within 30 seconds we were right here, and I was like 900 in drawdown, and my daily loss limit on these evals is freaking 1,000. So I've pretty much already hit the daily loss limit. I was like, bro, well that sucks. But we end up getting that nice recovery, and as soon as I see the really nice inverse, there's an inverse somewhere around here. It was this 1 minute. As soon as I see this candle close, it's like, okay, we're obviously going to go up and complete this internal model. And now, why didn't I not take my full position off right here? Because these are evals right now that I'm trading. I'm trading evals, and I just wanted that 1,500 mark basically, because this is obviously you need 3,000 to pass. I just bought these this morning, so I just want to hurry up and pass these so I can start trading the actual funded accounts. So I pretty much just dragged my TP on NQ to wherever 1500 was, which was like right here. And then I was like 20 something bucks short, so I just took a little short right here with one micro to complete the 1500. But yeah, that was pretty much today's trade. Really clean trade, honestly. Just extremely efficient delivery. And yeah, like I said, beautiful internal market maker buy model right here. As you can see, we've got sell side of the curve. We're generating buy side liquidity, selling off into a key level. What is the key level? It's this low. So SMT gets put in. Remember, this was the 5 minute displacement leg that was making me want to be bearish on NQ towards this 1 hour intermediate low. But when I see this reaction back up the price leg, displacing, opening up a huge 1 minute bullish imbalance, it's very obvious to me that NQ is now bullish and does not want to sell off. And what's even more, what's making me even more bullish than this was, like I said, this whole recap was ES. So ES was clearly heading towards buy side, so I was not wanting to take any short on NQ until this high was taken out. But then obviously high gets taken out, but I already ended up taking the really nice long on NQ, so I was done for the day. But so when I cashed this trade out, I liked it. It was like pretty much perfectly in line with ES reaching the daily fair value gap. So notice 8:45 a.m. is when I closed this trade. Look where ES taps the daily fair value gap, 8:45 a.m. So this was like literally perfect. Like right, like I said, I dragged my TP to 1500 flat, and then right when that gets hit is the same exact candle that ES taps the daily fair value gap, as you can see here. So this was literally this was a beautiful trade, like absolutely beautiful trade. Very clean long, very efficient long. And yeah, there was some other stuff I was gonna get into. I literally don't even remember now. I'm so freaking tired right now. But yeah, I just want to point this out again because this is just such a beautiful market maker buy model right here. And yeah, this is just for my journal, writing all this stuff down. But yeah, like I said, I held NQ until ES took the buy side draw on liquidity, which was that high that made the daily for value gap. Beautiful internal market maker buy model here. Market sells off initially, and like I said, I was looking at this sell model here, which has now clearly been complete. But this is what I was looking at market open. I wanted NQ to go take this internal low. And what was my condition for that? If I were to be bearish, what did I need to see? I needed to see this bullish 5 minute fair value gap get ran through. As you can see, NQ does end up doing that. But since we were so far down, I said, okay, I need to see a rebalance higher because I'm not just going to click sell right here and have if this will ever work, and have a 100-point stop. So obviously I needed a rebalance. So I was waiting for a move higher up towards this 2 minute bearish fair value gap here and up towards the 5 minute inverse. Now, obviously, this is the type of reaction that we end up getting. I say, okay, I can't really be bearish after seeing this huge move higher. And then that's when I looked at ES and recognized, okay, ES is very obviously going towards the daily fair value gap. So I now switch my bias on NQ. I viewed this as manipulation. Like, guys, okay, maybe this is like dead obvious what I'm about to say, but you need to be able to do what I did this morning. You need to be able to, yes, have a quote unquote bias. Yes, have an idea of what you want to see the market do, but don't marry that bias. Don't just become so attached to that idea simply because it's what you initially thought. Like what I mean is this morning, like I said, when this 5 minute candle closes here, let me just go to this chart because there's not as many drawings, but when this 5 minute candle closes right here, I am bearish on NQ because I recognize that we're coming out of the daily bearish for value gap. We have a 5 minute inverse for value gap, which this was my condition for me to be bearish. I needed to see this get ran. I'm not going to take an entry up here based off of 1 minute structure. I need to see at least the 5 minute displace lower. So we had the 5 minute change in the state here. We had the 5 minute inverse for value gap, and we had the SMT at this high. Because keep in mind, at market open, ES had not swept this high, and Q had. So bearish SMT in the bigger time frame, 5 minute inverse for value gap here. And at this point in time, I'm recognizing this as a potential market maker sell model. I want this to be sell side of the curve, and I want to see a move lower on NQ, so I am now bearish. However, once again, I know I've said this 8 times, but when I see this move here, I'm like, this is not something that a bearish market does. If NQ was bearish, we would not close a 58-point candle here. So this is when I go to ES, and I now recognize, okay, it's very obvious to me that ES wants buy-side liquidity. Yes, this was a bearish SMT, but what do I always say about SMTs? You can't just let an SMT define your entire bias, and you also can't let an SMT that opposes an obvious bias make you not take that trade. So when this was an obvious long to me today, the long that I took on NQ was very obvious. Just because this was an SMT on ES and ES hadn't taken out this high, it does not mean I'm going to just automatically fade a beautiful setup. I just took the long anyways because it's obvious that ES was going higher. So that's kind of what I'm saying is that you can't let your bias blind you to what's actually happening. So even though I was bearish here, I immediately flip bullish as soon as I see this candle because I'm like, okay, well, we're clearly not bearish. So now I view this like I've now switched the way that I'm viewing this price leg. I switched the way that I'm viewing this price leg from displacement through a 5 minute fair value gap to manipulation, right? So initially I was viewing this as displacement lower, and now I'm viewing it as manipulation with an SMT. And then I'm like, okay, well, if we're going to be bullish here, what do we need to do? We need to rebalance to the fair value gap that's just been opened. So we need to rebalance to this, and then it needs to hold. So we rebalance, we come down into the 30-second, and then I take my entry off of that 15-second inverse, as you can see here. This is where I end up taking that entry off of this 15-second inverse, as you can see with the executions. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out right quick. It's like you need to be able to, yes, have a bias, yes, have an idea of what you want to see the market do, but don't let that idea blind you to what's actually happening, right? Because I mean, trading's not about being right. Trading's not about guessing what the market's going to do and then being right or wrong. It's about being fully observant of what the market is doing and then just simply reacting to that. So yes, I was bearish once I see this 5 minute close, but I'm not marrying a bearish bias. I'm simply watching price and reacting to what is happening. I see displacement higher, and I'm now saying, okay, we're clearly not bearish. This is an SMT, so I'm viewing this as manipulation. Once I see this, I'm now viewing this. I mark out buy side liquidity, and I'm now viewing this as an internal buy model. And I'm just like, okay, sell side of the curve, displacement back inside the range, pull back to the inefficiency. I now want to see buy side of the curve here, and I'm now bullish bias because I'm not glued to my initial bearish bias. I'm simply being observant. I'm watching price, and I'm reacting to what I'm seeing. So when I see this and I see ES heading towards the daily, I am extremely bullish. So yeah, that's pretty much today's trade. Those are the executions, as you can see. I know I've yapped a lot. Like I said, I can't even think straight. I'm insanely tired, but yeah, really clean, really beautiful. God, okay, whatever. Beautiful trade today.